and welcome to the second day of waking up from your slumber. Have a moment of silence, please. So greetings, everyone. Before I hand over, like I do with in all of our other workshops, I'd just like to say a few words about the hosts, who are NAMA, the Journal of Integral Health. Because NAMA isn't just engaged in running workshops, courses, and programs. It's a long-standing and insightful journal available in print or in electronic format, e-journal. NAMA is the Journal of Integral Health, and it looks at the influence of the soul or spirit in man's search for health and well-being. It examines man's physical and mental health in an integral way. It looks at it in terms of his growth and spiritual progress, as everything is always interlinked. It looks at individual and social health from the perspective of the evolutionary process. It's a vast field, so the range of material we publish is very diverse. But the one common denominator is the influence of the soul on our health and its influence on the rest of our being. NAMA is published quarterly and available online for subscription in either format. With postage included, NAMA can even come straight to your door, wherever you are in the world. So I definitely recommend you look and give it a try. I'll put the website address on the chat a bit later. So the second session now for waking up from our slumber. And Monica is going to look at the practices and tools for waking up and how we can disidentify from the surface mind, a very important subject. So I'm very much looking forward to this session and hand over to you now.
Thank you so much, James. And while you were introducing NAMA, I just got reminded of when I was doing my PhD in autoimmune diseases, long ago in Zurich, and there was something which was not making sense, in the sense that if I'm only looking at blood samples, which we were looking at from patients having autoimmune diseases, somehow I was just wondering all the time that the mental, emotional, and other aspects of that person, I have no clue about. So how can I just find a cure by this petri dish that is in front of me? Yeah. And here, while you were telling about NAMA, it really answers many things that we otherwise, objectively looking at things, we can't decipher.
We hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. Yes. So a very warm welcome, everyone, to the second session today. Before we start with sharing of reflections, or if there are any doubts, questions, let us put our aspiration in front of us. If one of you can read it out for all of us, it would be really nice. Yeah, anyone who would like to unmute and read out the aspiration.
May I be a guard for those who need protection. a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles, and for the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, enduring like the earth and sky, until all beings are freed from sorrow and all are awakened.
Thank you so much, Rick. Yeah. So, yesterday we started reflecting upon contemplating on the sleep and understanding what is it that is being called as sleep. So just I would like to reiterate, because it's not enough to reiterate, whenever I'm too identified with the roles I play, whenever I'm too identified with the thoughts, opinions, beliefs, ideas in my head, whenever I'm too identified with the body, uh, knowing myself as the body, all this leads to a lot of suffering. Sooner or later, it may lead to pleasure in the beginning, but sooner or later it leads to suffering. So it's very important for us to recognize that we are not our thoughts, we are not the roles we play, we are not our feelings, we are not our physical sense perceptions, our desires. There is something more than all of that that we are, which we ignore. So I plan to show us a kind of a little example of our sleep, which is very clearly demonstrated by a teacher called Rupert Spira, who takes an example of an actor. So he says that maybe say John Smith is the actor's name, and he plays in Shakespeare's kind of a script. He plays the role of King Lear, and every day he goes out and wears the clothes and whatever the dresses of King Lear, and he goes out and plays this role. And one day he comes back and he's too much of overwhelmed of the burden of the story, of the script of the role play, and he's just talking about it, and thoughts and feelings are just revolving around the script while he comes back home. He's burdened with sorrow and lamentation. So a friend comes to him, and he's the actor who plays the role. He's sharing about his burdens and sorrows. But the friend says, but you are not King Lear, you are John Smith. So the friend reminds him that you are not who you think you are. Now, it definitely, the role is being played by the actor, but the actor is more than the role. So we are going to watch this little clip where he demonstrates this example, which can help us also, each one of us, to wake up from this dream that yes, all the loss of loved ones and all the pain that I have gone through in my life, all that is really heavy on me, but I am not that role. So it's very important to wake up from our roles. Otherwise, there is no end, actually. There is no end. So let us watch this first, and then we can take up reflections. So here he begins to share this example of John Smith and King Lear. It's a very famous example for those who listen to Rupert Spira.
But he goes to his theatre in the evening and he puts on the character of King Lear, which just consists of an overcoat and a set of thoughts and feelings. And so fully does he play the part of King Lear that he forgets that he is John Smith, and he seems to become King Lear. So he now feels, I am King Lear. Now, so fully does he lose himself in the part of King Lear that when the play ends, he forgets to return. When his friend comes to congratulate him backstage after the performance, he's surprised to find him miserable. So he says, that was fabulous, why are you miserable? And then King Lear starts relating his problems with his daughters and the French and the Kingdom of England. And his friend says to him, don't be silly. You're not miserable because of your relationship with your daughters or the war with French or British politics. You're miserable because you've just forgotten who you are. Who are you? King Lear then says, well, I'm the King of England. I'm the father of 3 daughters. And his friend says, no, don't be silly. You have not always been the King of England. You have not always been the King of England. You have not always been a father. So what are you essentially? These are roles that have been added to you. They are not essential to you. What are you before being a king, being a husband, being a father? So then King Lear thinks for a while. Then he starts describing his thoughts. And his friend says to him, no, your thoughts are not always with you. You haven't always had thoughts. They are always leaving you. What are you prior to your thoughts? So then King Lear goes deeper into himself and he starts describing his feelings. And his friend says, no, but even your feelings, they are very intimate, but they are still not essential to you. They are always leaving, appearing, leaving. So what you essentially are isn't even your feelings. And in this way, King Lear is going deep, tracing his way back through layers of his experience, trying to find something that is essential to him. And then at one point there is this recognition, I am John Smith. And at that moment, his suffering comes to an end, because his suffering was caused by the belief that he was King Lear.
So was that clear enough? Yeah, it's almost like, imagine Anupam Kher. In India, we know Anupam Kher. He's an actor and he plays a role of a villain in a movie. And he forgets that he's Anupam Kher. So that is what happens with all of us. All of us, when we take this physical existence, the roles that we play too seriously, the happenings in this life too seriously, they just get onto our head. They become the cause of so many illnesses, because we don't know who we truly are. So it's very important to realize that who we truly are is this presence of awareness, or in other words, in Mother and Sri Aurobindo's terminology, we can use that we are this consciousness that allows thoughts to come, that sees a thought, that recognizes a thought and allows it to leave, that allows a feeling to come and knows a feeling, or this presence of knowing, knows a feeling, knows bodily sense perceptions, knows the stories in the head. That knowing is who we truly are. And it's easier said than done, because today we may just a second. Today we may just talk about it, but talking doesn't help only. We have to practice, and that's why we meditate, because in meditation we are allowing thoughts, feelings to come and go, and we are watching. So I'm bringing the mind home to the breath, keeping it with the body, and I'm watching all the movements inside me. Jealousy coming and going, anger coming and going, pain coming and going. I'm not in the thoughts all the time. I'm watching their flow, and I am now with the body, with the breath, and I know myself as something beyond the appearance and disappearance of thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions. As long as all the thoughts and stories in my head remain very, very real and solid for me, I will continue to suffer. But if I now see their true nature, and the true nature is coming and going, they come and go, they They kind of gather themselves up, appear very solid, and then they disappear. Then they appear very, very solid, very heavy, and then they disappear. But this appearance and disappearance cannot be seen if I don't calm the mind first, bring the mind home with the breath and body. So today I'll share a few, if I can say, maybe tools, yes, for continuing to wake up every moment, because it's a moment by moment task. Kabir ji says that my house, where I have found home, is on the top of a mountain tip, right at the top. And so much vigilance is required each moment that the moment I'm non-vigilant, I slip down into abyss. So if the mind loses the thread of breath and we get too much lost and entangled in the stories which appear so real, we suffer. We become again trapped in our egos. So moment to moment awakening is required. We cannot say that now I have been practicing awareness and mindfulness for 20 years and now I can drop it off. We can never drop it off. I must always be mindful of all that I'm thinking, all that goes on in my head, as if like a vigilant guard, and not buying into all that story. There is nothing I can find there. So bringing the mind home in the simplicity of the present moment, bringing mind home, bringing mind home. And this has to be done every then and now. So before I begin sharing of the tools, would anyone like to share any questions, reflections, or something from yesterday's exercises, or if you were able to do anything?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, please.
So the exercise was to imagine that, all the people and things that are most precious to you are. So then the mind is very insidious, because then it instantly starts imagining all kinds of things, like why aren't they there and what happened to them, and all kinds of, negative scenarios. And, so then you kind of go into a kind of a panic situation where you build yourself up into a kind of a, so I kept telling myself that it's an exercise and, nothing has happened to anybody. And, so I think, like you said, it's a matter of practice, because you're doing this for the first time. It's very difficult to dissociate yourself with the people you love the most. And I mean, in my case, that is, I think, what my, I would say I love too much, and I'm too much into my people. And so that I don't think I was very successful at that exercise. But at night when I was sleeping, I was, what you said about all these thoughts being our stories, and they're so attractive. And so one of my issues is that I don't sleep at night. I get up every hour because my children are in different time zones, and I'm always checking my phone, if anybody needs me, if anybody sent an emergency message, or, so I'm constantly checking. And so yesterday I was able to at least tell myself that that's a story, that's a thought, nothing has really happened, and you're just building yourself into worry for nothing. So that's a story. That's not a real thing, So I was able to at least dissociate myself from the worry and tell myself, just sleep. And I was able to at least sleep at least a few hours, though I still got up once, but I was again able to put the phone off and sleep after that. So I think it was a improvement over previous patterns. So I think in that sense, I'm able to recognize that my worry is a story, and it's this desire to show that I don't know what it is, but it's a very big part of the identity, that you are needed and you're this mom, and you're nobody can live without you, kind of a thing. And so there is this, it's a very big part of the identity. It's very difficult to dissociate from that. So the exercise also will take a lot of effort and practice, I think, in that sense. And I also think that the other part that, when the quote you shared yesterday about Deepa, I think Deepa was the name of the lady, about too much luxury not being very good for the spiritual practice. And I was just thinking about that because I've been through my share of suffering, and I have progressed. I can see I've progressed from that point, and I've come to understand, and I've come to have all my needs taken care of. I've reached a point where I'm comfortable, and I've achieved things that I would have never dreamt of before. And now I'm thinking that, is this also kind of a sleep, being very comfortable and achieving everything, and then now what? And then I'm thinking, is that another story? Because you're so used to always doing something and fixing yourself and always healing and always doing something to yourself. Now there's nothing to heal. So what do? So you rake up an issue just so that you can heal it, So, I mean, from yesterday's conversation, I'm just trying to recognize what is the story and what is the truth, So it was interesting for me to go through this process.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Your sharing reminds me of this Raja Janak's story. I think when there was this anecdote when he had a dream, and in dream he was a beggar, and some story is happening like when he is a beggar, and suddenly he wakes up from the dream and he realizes, oh my God, I'm a king. Now he's confused. He says that was that a dream or what is this a dream? And then he asks this question to Ashtavakra and he says both. So yes, yeah. Yes, Shamlaji, you want to share?
Yeah. I did all the exercise, whatever you asked me to do. While listing out about the people situations, okay, as Ekta said, I mean, I have gone through all these things, and now I know that I'm not so much important in others' lives. So that realization is there, except for my son, not much. But 2 points which struck me. One is I was afraid of food and independence. Among the 6 or 7 only, it was in my list, without which I cannot survive. In that, 2 things, food struck me and independence. So, okay, food, okay, it should be there for our survival, that I can understand. But independence, see, what is independence? I was a little bit confused whether whatever I can do, I should be able to do. Is that independence, or whatever is coming in my way? Maybe I've been imprisoned, but still, if I feel that, okay, I'm good there. Okay, so is that independence? Because through by thought, it is an independence, right? Wherever I am, I should be able to acknowledge that situation or appreciate that situation and live peacefully. Is that independence, or whatever I want to do? There, I thought, why it struck me that point. If you can please make me understand.
Yeah, beautiful. So regarding food, we think that we cannot live without food, but that's not true. And it's not a fantasy. There are people living on this planet who are breatharians, who are living on breath. They are not having food. So don't think that you are dependent on food. As long as you would want to be dependent, yes, definitely. But there are other possibilities. Second, the thing about dependence, the cloth that you're wearing, where is it coming from? Some kisan, some farmer somewhere is growing the cotton. Some machine is making the thread, the fabric. Some tailor is stitching the fabric, and there you are, you buy it, right? So everything, whatever you see around you is it will make you realize that, just a second. So we have to realize that we are always interdependent. Nobody is independent.
Okay.
See, the way it is, it's like we are dependent on the internet so that we can have the session.
Right.
Internet will be dependent on other people who are operating the internet, making it functional, fixing the bugs and everything. So it's like a vast interconnection that we cannot fathom. So forget about independence in that sense. So we will always be interdependent.
Okay.
Like for example, like Thich Nhat Hanh, the famous Zen teacher, he shares that in this pencil I can see a cloud. Now how can I see a cloud in this pencil? Now this is coming from wood. Now wood, what is taking care of wood? It's coming from trees, and without cloud, without rain, a tree cannot be. So he sees a cloud in this pencil. So that's the amount of interconnection that is there. But on the other level, I also feel that true independence is to be solely responsible for our own well-being. So whether I am in a prison, whether I am dependent physically, I have maybe a handicap or something, I'm physically dependent on something, which can happen with anyone, right? Sometimes we care for people, sometimes people have to care for us. But within me, I am responsible for my happiness. I am not putting this burden on other people's shoulders that you are responsible for my happiness. This is true independence. That whatever may be the outer situation, I take charge of my happiness and contentment. I don't blame others in other situations for it. That's true independence. That can happen anywhere, whether you are physically even dependent on others, which can be the case with anyone, since it is body and body, from time to time it changes. So yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So anyone else wants to share anything? So we are going to take a few tools today. One of the tools being, I have shared with earlier in money workshops also, it's called Tonglen. Tonglen, Tonglen. Many teachers have talked about it. It's a very simple tool in which what we do is we tune in within our body. We tune in, how am I feeling? Okay, I'm feeling maybe a bit sad today. Something happened, I feel a bit sad. Now, the moment I recognize sadness, I tune in further and stay with the physical sensation of sadness. Okay, this is how it feels when sadness is there. I can be with it. And then, using my pain, my sadness, I connect with all the people out there who are feeling sadness. Now I know how it feels because I'm feeling it right now. Right? So I use my sadness as a link to connect me with the sadness of billions of people. So your sadness and pain is not going to waste. We'll make use of it. So just like Ekta ji was sharing that my children are in different time zones and I'm worried. So the moment you become conscious of the worry, hey, here is the worry, right? Now connect with that worry. How does it feel in the body when you're worrying? Feel it fully, be with it fully. We don't have to run away from worry. Now, this is how everyone feels when they're worrying about their children. Oh, now I know their pain. Right? Now I understand their pain. Right? And then what you do, you inhale everyone's suffering. You inhale the pain. With in breath, you inhale the pain that people go through when their children are away and they're worrying. Now I know that pain. So you, with the in breath, you inhale that pain, and with the exhaling breath, with the out breath, you give them or you wish for them simplicity and joy of the present moment. May they be well and happy. May their mind be free of worry. So what the beauty of this tool is that, first of all, it shifts my own consciousness. It takes me immediately, it shifts the worrying me to a relaxed me. And it also makes use of the worry. And if you face resistance while you are taking in suffering, you may face resistance. You may think, oh my God, I'm not even capable of my own suffering. How can I inhale billions of suffering? How can I do that? Allow that resistance to be there. It is the resistance of the ego, and we are not our egos. So even in spite of resistance, if you inhale the suffering, your heart opens up. You become full of compassion. Now your own little family is just not your family. The whole world is your family. So if those of us who want to open up our hearts, because we are so logged in our own families and relatives, and the same pain that we get through our own families, they can be used to expand ourselves, expand our hearts. All of us go through this worry. So why not make use of it? So this technique is very simple, very powerful technique, and this can be done anytime. For example, you feel a suddenly you feel a relaxation. I remember this incident that I was sitting in sun and somebody brought me a nice juice, fresh juice, very cold and nice juice. And I was not expecting the juice. Somebody just got it. And I felt so nice because it was so heated up. And I really thanked that person for bringing me the juice, and the relief I felt in my being, that wow, this it really feels nice when somebody is kind and compassionate to you. So immediately as I became conscious of that action of kindness, I sent out a wish, may all the people be comforted with such acts of kindness, just like today I have been comforted. Right? So we can see, we are just being mindful of what is happening in me. Nothing big is happening. Sadness, I am mindful of sadness. Happiness, I am mindful of the happiness arising. And the moment you become mindful of it, conscious of it, you connect it with all the people out there. So with all the sentient beings, you connect your pain, you connect your happiness, you share it with all the beings. So nothing doing, no big thing happened, no big spiritual experiences are happening, but your day-to-day life has a good quality now. You feel more rich, more in the here and now, and not wanting to run anywhere. And even if you want to run anywhere and you recognize that, oh, I've been wanting to run somewhere and I'm not feeling centered, immediately become conscious of it. Oh, I'm not feeling centered. Now, how does it feel when you don't feel centered? Feel it in the body, feel it. Okay, now I know how restless one feels when one is not in the present moment. Now I understand this pain. So now I connect with all the people who are restless, because minds are alike. We are human beings. Everybody is alike. Take in that restlessness, take in the suffering, and exhale peace and joy for everyone. And in that, you first of all shift your own consciousness, and you say a prayer out there for everyone. But this has to be, again, it's easier said than done. You practice it, and only then you would know the benefit of it, that how it has the power to bring you in the present moment, here and now. Whatever you are going through, anger, jealousy, doesn't matter what you are going through, fear, panic, anything can be made use of. Yeah. So that's the first tool which I wanted to offer you. I practice it myself and I feel that it's very, very powerful, very simple. So any question on this?
Can you please repeat what are we supposed to do when you're exhaling?
Yeah. So with the in-breath, I inhale the suffering, what everyone goes through when they are worrying, for example. And with the out-breath, you wish for them simplicity and joy of the present moment. May their minds be free of worry. May they be in the here and now. So anything, any good wish which brings you in the here and now, you can frame it in your own words. Yeah. So the second tool, going through especially disturbing ones, because the disturbing emotions are the ones which are difficult. Happiness everyone can go through, but disturbing emotions become a bit challenging, is to see their true nature. So for example, if I have been, say, worried, worry is very common, right? Let's say worry. Now, you can make worry or anger your object of meditation. So today, what am I going, you immediately become conscious of worry in your being. Okay. Without that, we'll not be able to use the tools. So I have to become conscious of whatever is going on in me. Okay, I'm worrying. I'm worrying. And if the worry is too overwhelming, so I sit with the worry for a few moments. I make worry the object of my meditation. How do I do that? You bring your mind to the breath. Thank you, Cindy. You bring your mind to the breath, sit relaxed position, and you create the worry. You create it in your head. We all know how to create worry. Think about it. So you think about the past situation, present situation, your present happen, whatever is your worry, you recreate it in your head. Right? I think that's not an issue because we are recreating it all the time. So that should not be an issue. We are very deft at it. We know how to do it well. So I sit with my breath and I recreate with my thoughts the worry that is troubling me. Now, once I have created it, I don't create it anymore. It's right in front of me, like worry. Oh, I'm worried. Oh, I'm worried. Right? Now I stay with the body and the breath. And as if worry is like a person on an object in front of me. Worry, worry. Oh, I'm worrying, worrying. I have to worry. Okay. I appear very serious when I'm worrying. So what you are doing is you are just like in Tratak, for example, you look at a candle flame and you just focus on that, right? Earlier we were using breath as an object of focus. Now I'm using worry as an object of focus. Now it's your task not to let go of worrying. And what would happen is that the moment you sit with worry, oh, I have to worry, I have to worry, immediately it will scatter away. It will scatter away. You will become lighter. But then don't buy that. Recreate the worry. Become tensed, become stressed. So this is what you have to do. Like you have to recreate it the moment it dissipates. Now, the longer we sit with this, it only has to be experimented. I'm just talking about it. The longer we sit with the worry, we realize that there is no solidity in my worry. It comes and goes. I begin to focus on it and it disappears. Then I begin to think about something else, not the worry. Right? So what it tells us is the empty nature of worrying. Empty nature of, for example, anger. If I am angry at a person, so again I make it an object of my meditation. I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry. You have to feel angry, right? Stay angry. Try to be angry for 24/7. You will not be able to do that. Because it will create itself and then it will descatter. It will create itself and then it will descatter. Just like clouds, how they form in the sky. They form a formation and then they disappear, right? So this is a Buddhist practice, seeing truly the nature of disturbing emotions. That they have no solidity, that we think that they are so solid and they have some really, like, I have to be serious about something. So the true nature of the fleeting phenomena, the true nature of the coming and disappearing phenomena is emptiness, is space. And all that you are left with is this presence of awareness. Yeah, so that's another tool for those of us who, again, these tools are not going to help those of us who are convinced that their stories are real. These tools are for those of us who have now suffered enough because of their stories. And they want a new life for them. Only then I will be convinced that whatever is appearing in me, let me sit and have a look at its true nature. Because I have bought into these stories enough, haven't I? I have. Now I don't want to live a miserable life anymore, whatever life is remaining in my life. I want to live a fulfilling life, a rich life. Only then I will be compelled to practice. And also I will be compelled to practice the aspiration that Rick was reading in the beginning, of the session, that when I am centered and rooted in my true nature, then I am able to offer myself beneficially to all the others around me. Otherwise, I am in a pain in the ass for other people around me. And I don't want to be that pain in the ass anymore. So can I benefit my own self, and can I also benefit others around me? If this aspiration is there, you will be compelled to practice, to find out who you truly are, because you are not the roles that appear in your head. They are impressions from past lives, they are impressions from this life, and that is egoistic consciousness. As long as I live as the egoistic consciousness, I will live a suffocated life. That's not me. That's not me. Imagine that your size is large and I give you excess size to wear. You will feel so suffocated. This is how we feel all the time, because we are living borrowed lives. We are living excess life while we are made for L. So this, again, I'm just convincing that why would I practice? I would practice if I have suffered enough first. Second, if I love myself enough that I want a good life for myself and others. So that's the second tool where I wanted to share that whatever we are going through, that can become an object of my meditation. So that I see through it, I see its true nature. And then the next time anger is arising, I don't buy into that easily, because now I have seen how empty it is. Now I won't buy into its dictates. So anything at the second point? Anyone? Yeah, okay. Now Buddhism talks about 8 worldly concerns, and I feel it's very important for us to talk about it. These 8 worldly concerns are poles of duality, and we see ourselves running towards one, running away from the other. For example, we run towards happiness and run away from suffering. Don't we? All of us. We want to meet those friends who make us feel nice. We don't want to meet those people who make us not feel nice. We all do that. Catch yourself doing that. Whenever we run towards happiness and we run away from suffering, we suffer even more. Notice it in your life. No, I don't want pain. I don't want pain. Right? And in that you become more miserable, because the pain comes and goes. That's the nature, it comes. So running towards happiness or pleasure, we can say pleasure, right? Watching a movie is pleasurable. Sitting at home, maybe getting bored is not that pleasurable. So I don't want to do that. I run towards pleasure. So very soon things of pleasure turn into pain. The same person which brought me pleasure now brings me pain. Haven't you seen that? All of us have seen that. So running towards pleasure, running away from suffering is first 2 worldly concerns: pleasure and suffering, pleasure and pain. Second would be running towards gain, running away from loss. So where for example, if financially I invest something, I want gain and I don't want loss. When loss comes, I am disappointed. When gain comes, I am elated, full of happiness. So running towards gain, running away from loss. That would be 4 worldly concerns: pleasure, pain, gain, loss. Then running towards praise and running away from blame. We don't want to be blamed for anything that we do, but we want to be praised. We like to be praised. So running towards praise and running away from blame. And the last 2 are wanting fame and respect and running away from insignificance. So I think this would also touch what Ektaji was sharing in the beginning, that there is something in us which wants to be somebody. I just can't handle being nobody. How can I be so insignificant? Oh, nobody bothers about me. Oh. It's actually quite liberating if nobody bothers about you. So in these, why it's important to know these 8 worldly concerns, because whenever we are suffering, you will find that you are running towards one, running away from other. It's very, very subtle, but we are doing that all the time. So for example, today you just experience a bit of disappointment in you. Something happened and you are disappointed. Just look at yourself and ask, okay, what am I clinging to and what am I not wanting? You will get to know the cause of your disappointment. Definitely somebody must have said something which did not resonate with you. You did not like it. You felt rejected, insulted, and the cause of my suffering. Here I go. Very simple. So that's why we were yesterday talking of disenchantment. That now I don't expect praise and respect and fame and appreciation and that people make me somebody. Now I have no enchantment towards that. It may come, that's a different thing. It may come, but my happiness, my contentment is not dependent on people appreciating me. How liberating that can be. That's disenchantment, and true disenchantment is very liberating. It's very liberating. So we'll hear on this disenchantment, because I think I missed it yesterday. Something on disenchantment. Let's hear it shortly. Just a second. Yeah, this one.
Holy day. But is something which is at the center of our life instead of just the periphery when we have a bit of time. So the first part is setting the foundation. Some commentaries say that the first step is a disenchantment with samsara. That means that we recognize that all the joys that we might hope that samsara, anybody not know what samsara is? Everybody knows samsara. Okay, samsara means the endless round of birth and death and rebirth, the ordinary worldly life that we live. That, you know, we are told by society that if we make lots of money and we get a nice big house and fancy cars and you know, designer clothes, that somehow that's going to make us feel really fulfilled. And people who have acquired all these have discovered it doesn't leave them fulfilled. They are asking themselves, is this all life is about? And so then, as with the Buddha himself, who was a prince and had everything, including a wife and a son, and a doting father, and a kingdom about to become his own, nonetheless, he recognized that that was not enough. There must be something beyond this. Is this all we're here for? Just to, surround ourselves with pleasure and comfort, and then what? And so for many people also living in the West, one of the advantages is that we can see that all these perks to the worldly life do not actually give us a sense of genuine inner fulfillment and satisfaction. However much we get, there's always more, and then what? And so this sense of disenchantment is, by some of the lamas, regarded as the key to opening the door to the palace of all the treasures of the Dharma teaching. Unless we're interested and we have a reason for wanting to go further, then we're not even going to get started. So that sense of turning away, it doesn't mean you have to all give up your families and your home and go forth, but it does mean that inwardly we no longer place all our reliance on outer satisfactions, that we are looking for something deeper and more permanent. So a lot of people come to the Dharma or to spiritual paths in general because of suffering. Because outwardly everything's falling apart. And so then they ask themselves, is there a refuge? They are caught in the stormy waves. Where is a boat? The Buddha himself described the Dharma as a boat. He said that it helps us to ride the waves of samsara. Samsara's waves go up and down. Sometimes everything's okay. Sometimes we're down again because waves go up, waves go down. And so what we need is something to help us to ride the waves. And so the Dharma is also compared to a boat. So
this reminds me of the story of Deepa Ma, who I was sharing yesterday, her teachings. She underwent a very difficult time, very, very difficult. Like, she got married to a person, went to Burma in those days, and then always wanted to do meditation, but somehow she could never find time, or the situations were not right. So her heart was calling her again and again to meditation, but she could not do that. So what happened, her first child came, and when the first child was around 3 months old, the child died, and she underwent a lot of sorrow, a lot of depression for about 4 years when the second child was born. Then she got soothed a little because of that. And then after that, the third child was born, and the third child also passed away. And then she underwent again a big turmoil, around 4 or 5 years of again, not really able to sleep, too much of misery, too much of trauma. And then she really, diseases started to come to her, and she says that if not for meditation, I would have died. And the meditation, as she was sharing, the boat, the dharma is the boat which carries you through the waves of the samsara or the worldly existence. If not for meditation, or why meditation? Because meditation makes you know who you truly are. We come back home to ourselves. And if we don't come back home to ourselves, then all these appearances, the passing away of the sons and the passing away of her even husband later on, all that appears so heavy that you're not able to live life. People commit suicides because of that heaviness. So she says that I was so weak, and meditation was my only power. That saved me. Because when her mind came back to the breath and the body in the here and now, then she realized, oh, no, I can live. Many things are okay. I can live. But when the mind is not in the present moment, not in the here and now, all that has happened and should be happening and is happening, that appears so heavy that one is not able to live. So that's the power of bringing mind back home, so that you are able to have a nice sleep, rest the mind. In the here and now, things are okay. You are not in the hospital, you are attending live sessions. Isn't that beautiful? We have a roof over our head and 3 meals and more than that for every day. Isn't that more than enough? So her teaching is very simple. Those of us inclined, very simple teaching. She says, when you're walking, be aware you're walking. When you're eating, be aware that you're eating. When your mind wanders away, tell yourself, gone away, gone away. Come back home. How simple. When anger is arising, anger is arising, anger is arising. So a parallel consciousness is there which sees the movements. And then the right action will be taken because of the seeing. Usually we are not even aware and the anger comes and we are just blurting out something in the anger. But when the awareness or the consciousness of anger arising is there, then it is impossible that you do harmful actions. Because you're conscious. That consciousness takes care of the right action. No other truth or formula is needed. That's the power of consciousness. So I am aware, oh, jealousy is arising. Oh, I can see jealousy arising, right? Now you cannot act jealous. It is impossible that you will be able to follow the dictate of jealousy once you have seen jealousy arising. Something new will happen. So this was about the 8 worldly concerns which I wanted to share, that whenever we become uneasy, something is not right, become conscious, okay, what am I clinging to? What am I clinging to and what am I running away from? Wanting pain, wanting happiness, running away from suffering. So settle down with whatever the state is. Settle down, feel it fully, be it with it, with the body, and see what it shows you. Maybe something new opens up. So then Buddhism also talks about 3 root poisons, at times 5 root poisons. And these are attachment, the clinginess that we were talking of yesterday, the clingy mind, the root of everything. Attachment, aversion or anger. Like I get repulsed from people I don't like, that aversion. I get annoyed with things I don't like, like in Hindi we call rag and dvesh, attachment and aversion. So these poles of duality, we're always getting kind of what they say, that the mill is running and we are getting powdered in between these two. So attachment, aversion and ignorance are the 3 root poisons. So whenever we feel any poison in us, whenever we feel any discomfort and unease in us, we can trace it back to either of these 3 roots: attachment, aversion or anger, or even jealousy, greed. They all are part of it. And ignorance. And ignorance is when we ignore our true nature. Our true nature of the presence of awareness is always there 24/7. But I am so lost in the stories, the solidity of stories is so much that I ignore my true nature. I live in ignorance. So I although it is there 24/7 awareness, and because of the awareness I know a thought, I know a feeling, but I don't know myself as that knowing or the awareness. That's the root ignorance, ignoring our true nature. So I'm going to play something else again on this, what I just shared.
Buddha is pointing to the moon. Okay, you're visualizing it all very nicely. Anyway, the Buddha is pointing to the moon, which represents liberation, right? So he is outside of the wheel, and he's pointing, this is the way to go. Okay, now, as with any wheel, what keeps it turning is the hub, right? In any wheel, it won't turn unless there's a hub. The hub, the core of the wheel, that is what has the rod going through. That turns, and the whole wheel turns round. So I keep, in case we go on forever. So here, the hub, if you can see, the very center of the picture, there are 3 animals, right? There is a cockerel, and a snake, and a pig, right? Can everybody see that? Right? And they are all biting each other's tails, which means that they're all interconnected. And they're going round and round and round, scurrying round and round and round, and that turns the whole cycle. So, this really is very, very, the whole point of this wheel of life are those 3 little animals at the middle. The cockerel stands for desire, greed, grasping. The snake stands for anger, aversion, hatred. And the poor pig stands for ignorance. Very unfair to pigs, but there we go. So the underlying point of departure is that pig. Ignorance in Buddhism does not mean not knowing the capital of Guatemala or being up on the latest in quantum physics. It means not knowing how things really are, being caught in our conceptual thinking, dualistic mind of subject and object, and not recognizing the way things really exist, because our minds naturally reify everything. That means that we make everything into separate individual things. And then we either like those things or do not like those things. So the pig is the beginning. Any impetus which comes through our sense doors, our eyes, what we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we touch, what we think about, automatically automatically we have the reaction of liking it or disliking it or being indifferent to it. This is very important. Normally this moment of reaction is so fast that we don't even notice it. And this is one of the practices for learning how to be mindful, is to become more and more conscious of how all the input which comes through the senses either is pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. And in that self, that doesn't matter. That's fine. But then, if we are not aware of that initial impulse to liking it, disliking it, or ignoring it, which are these three animals, right? Then, if it's pleasant, we reach out and want to grasp it and hold on. If it displeases us, we feel irritated, annoyed. Oh, it's a sound, I don't like that, you know, and feeling annoyed and irritated and angry. Or else we're indifferent. And if we stay too indifferent to everything, in that kind of indifference, it's kind of apathy. It's not an equanimity. It's just a kind of dullness. So right from the start, right every moment to moment to moment, we actually are experiencing pleasure, pain, or indifference, even as you're sitting there. You sit there and, oh yeah, this is a nice seat. It's very comfortable. But then after a while, it's not comfortable anymore. You know, so you start moving, right? Why? We do it automatically, but if you're looking, the body is saying, this is discomfort, I don't like it, I want to change it, right? And so moment to moment to moment in our life, we are doing this, and mostly unconsciously. And so it dominates us. Some people are more inclined towards, you know, liking things and being pleasant. Some people are more towards finding things annoying and irritating and frustrating.
I'll stop here. I think we have enough for reflection. So the basic idea is when now we have started walking on this path of becoming conscious of the inner movements, can I see this wanting to run away and grasping and become conscious of it? Just like she was sharing that if I'm feeling discomfort, the immediate reaction is to run away from the discomfort or make things comfortable immediately, right? That's what we do. That if I'm uncomfortable, okay, maybe fan तेज कर देते हैं, you know, increase the fan speed, switch on the AC, so that I become comfortable. How I can experiment with this? That the moment I feel a discomfort, I become conscious of a discomfort, and I stay with the discomfort and not follow the habituated pattern of running away from discomfort and finding things that are comfortable. Know how discomfort is in the body. Let me be with it. Bring the mind home with the body and breath. You sit or walk or wherever you are. Stay with that discomfort. Because then we will be breaking the habituated pattern of running away from discomfort. And this mother talks about when we take the poise of psychic being, when we are one with our soul consciousness. Mother talks of an equipoise and disinterestedness. This is the equipoise and disinterestedness when I'm mindful of whatever is happening, and I'm not now immediately, you may change the things later, but I'm not immediately following the habituated impulse of running away from discomfort, running away from people who I find challenging. So I notice that wanting to run away, but I don't run away. I stay with that wanting to run away in the body. And in the body, we meet these disturbing and negative emotions and conditions. In the body, we meet it. We don't meet them in the head. In the head, we try to evade them. But when in the body, I meet them, then I see, wow, I can go through it. Really something. I can go through it. I can go through it. Oh, pain has come. Okay, I can go through it. So just like that, I become my bestest friend, and whatever arises, I can be with it, know its true nature, explore it in my being, and move on. So these are, again, reminding myself and also others who are attending. Few tools, again, infinite possibilities are there. It's not that these are the only things, but I am sharing those which resonate with me, which are a part of my practice also, and very little tools which can be moment to moment pointers for us, reminders for us. And since we don't know how long a life we have, it may be very short, why not make the full utilization of whatever time I have? Why not have a mind which is at home? Why not with my presence benefit others around me and myself? Why to wait for a future time when I will be free of all these duties and obligations and then I will do something for others? Why? Are you sure then that point you will be alive? You're not sure. So making the best use of time and life right now with our practice. So anything at the moment, anyone wants to share any doubts, any reflections? So one thing which comes up again and again is to become conscious of the grasping and clingy mind. And this goes with what Mother says, we live as the desiring self, the desiring soul, but that's not who we truly are. So we have to move towards our true soul, true individuality. So when I become conscious of a clinginess in me, not to follow its dictate, to become conscious of it, I can drop being the desiring self. As long as I will live as the clingy, grasping mind, I will not be content and would be living my true purpose in this life. That's why they say human birth is so precious. But it is not precious if I don't even make use of it. So there is one last teaching which I will share in a moment, which is from Thich Nhat Hanh, where somebody asks him that what to do if the present moment is unbearable. Because Thich Nhat Hanh is a teacher of mindfulness. He's always asking us, reminding us to bring back mind home to the body and breath. So somebody asks that what if the present moment is unbearable? You ask us to bring the mind to the present again and again. So he has something very powerful to share, which I thought I'll share with all of us. But before that, is there anything anyone wants to share? Okay. So, just a second. Yeah, this one.
I stay in the present moment when it feels unbearable. Because in Plum Village, we always say that let us not get caught in the past and the future. Let us go back to the present moment. And this is a question about that: how can I stay in the present moment when the present moment feels unbearable? That's a good question. Anyone who knows the practice of mindfulness knows that you have to go home to the present moment. When you go home to the present moment, you can find two kinds of situations. The first kind of situation is there are so many conditions of happiness available in the here and the now. When you breathe in and bring your mind home to your body, you are established in the present moment. And you notice there are so many refreshing and healing elements available in the present moment. There's also many conditions of happiness available in the present moment. And with that awareness to generate a feeling of joy and happiness is very easy. That you can do in order to nourish yourself with joy and happiness. So that is the first thing you encounter when you go back to the present moment. The second situation is that when you go back to the present moment, you might encounter a feeling of pain, a feeling of a painful emotion that is in you. In fact, a painful feeling, a painful emotion manifests from time to time. But when it begins to manifest, we don't like to be there, so we try to run away, pretending that it's not there. So no one is there in order to take care of the painful feeling, the painful emotion. So going back to the present moment here is no longer to recognize the elements of joy and happiness, but to have a chance to take care of the pain in ourselves and to transform it. So even if the present moment is unbearable, to go back to that moment is the only chance for us to do something in order to calm it down and to transform it. Most of people don't do that because they're afraid that when they come home to themselves and touch the pain inside, they will be overwhelmed by the suffering. And that is why the practice is to run away. Imagine something about the future to forget. Go back to the past to forget. But the past and the future, they are like images, not reality. Only the present moment is real. Many people try to cover up the pain inside, not only by going back to the past or running to the future. Imagine that there will be some hope, some end of suffering in the future, but that cannot last long. And most people try to cover up the suffering inside by the practice of consumption. We read magazines, we watch television, we find something to eat, we listen to the music, we pick up the phone to talk. Everything we do because we hope that by doing these things we don't have to confront the suffering in us. And we allow that pain to continue to grow in us. So the practice of mindfulness helps us to go home to the present moment. Even the moment is not pleasant, but it is in that very moment that we can understand the suffering and that we can find a way in order to calm it down and to transform it.
So I want to share a small example on what Thich Nhat Hanh was sharing here. Once I remember myself walking in a lawn, and I was something was on my head, and it was too painful. I was too much in my thoughts, although I was in the natural place, for example, in a lawn, very beautiful, pleasant weather. But I can't say that I was there. And then I started to listen to what he was sharing. Actually, I just stumbled upon this one. And immediately, when I was listening to him, I realized that my feet were touching very cold, soft grass, very pleasant to touch, very soothing, because it was a little dry weather. So it was very enjoyable to have that realization that the feet were touching soft, wet mud on this soft grass. And then suddenly, chirps of birds also I came to recognize. They were there earlier also, but I was not there. I was lost. And immediately I realized that birds were also singing, chirping. And suddenly, as if I was not suffering anymore. So what he was sharing has a lot of power, because so that there was something which I was ruminating upon, which was giving me pain, right? But I allowed myself, listening to the instruction, I allowed the mind to come back home with the breath. I was bringing the mind home to the breath, staying with the body. And when even for a moment, I was in the here and now, in the present moment, as he just shared that there are other conditions of happiness possible. So my being healthy, my being alive, my feet touching the soft grass, good weather, I think that immediately, as if I felt so much of gratitude welling in up in me, that wow, I can be grateful. There is something to be grateful for. And that thing that was on my head, suddenly it just disappeared like scattered clouds. So I think it is very important to realize that it is us who stubbornly stick to my ideas of happiness, that happiness has to come that way. And if it's not coming that way, then I'll be miserable. But if we allow the mind, if we become a bit open and allow the mind to be in the here and now, with the breath, with the body in the present moment, we see that we really are very fortunate, really very fortunate. And hence we can use this time to practice mindfulness and bring ourselves home every moment, not waste this precious human life, and leave our stubbornness to have happiness come only one way. Leave that stubbornness. Let it not come through that person or that sibling or that child. Doesn't matter. It's coming through your healthy body. It's coming through your being okay, living with a roof over your head. Isn't that enough? It's coming through us being able to talk about these issues. It's coming us being able to reflect over things that matter. So I feel that these simple teachings by these teachers are very helpful, and they just remind us that we don't have to remain miserable all our life. We can begin a new life, simple life right now, wherever we are, no matter how difficult the story may appear. But when we bring the mind home to the present moment, then we realize that even with the story being there, I can be okay. So we can take up any last reflections and comments. Anyone?
I have one question. The pig represents the ignorance, right? And behind him is the snake with liking or disliking. And behind is desire.
Yeah, so there was crocodile.
It's the crocodile. Okay, I got it.
Crocodile was the desire and greed, grasping.
And that comes after liking or disliking.
Then it was aversion or anger or hatred. So that would
Yeah.
be taken as dislike. Aversion
Okay.
is dislike. So snake, you can say it is representing dislike. Crocodile is representing attachment or grasping or like. So if I like a particular person, I grasp onto that person. I
Attachment,
want
desire,
that person.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Desire, greed.
Alright.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Most welcome. Yes. So Kabir says, "Thari kaya nagar ka kaun dhani, marag mein loote panch jani." Saint Kabir. So he says kaya is the body, and he's asking us, who is the master of this body? Thari kaya nagar ka kaun dhani? Dhani is the sate or the owner. Marag mein loote panch jani, that the 5 deers of senses, they come and graze your field away. So that's where our mind is lost. We hear something, the mind gets lost. Somebody said something, we remember the past, the mind gets lost, all over, scattered. So Kabir, in many, many verses and songs and couplets, he asks us to bring the mind home. Bring the king home, bring the guard home. Otherwise, he says that whatever crops you are bearing in your farmland, they'll be eaten away by the deer of senses. So whatever inputs we receive, whatever touch, taste, smell, what we were discussing, liking, disliking, being aversive to something, being repulsive to something, wanting something that I like, we are just lost in that drama. And it is a suggestion of masters time and again to bring the mind home, to bring the king back home, so that your kingdom can be happy. So wishing everyone again further happy practice, not only for tomorrow, but for a lifetime and beyond. And I'll be sharing a few questions for reflections if people are interested on the WhatsApp group, and by email also, James will send.
Sure.
And yeah, we'll keep at it. Yeah, bringing mind home.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Monica.
Yes. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, James. Thank you,
Yeah.
Shamalaji.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Ekta.
Monica.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
you.